Hi, everybody, and welcome to Beyond the Business Suit, the podcast that gives you the inspiration and information you need to thrive at work and beyond. I'm Kylie Carr, your host, and today I am overjoyed. I am more than thrilled. I'm more than excited. I am overjoyed to have my friend, my soror, oh my goodness, someone I admire, somebody I appreciate to join us today. Today, we are joined by Jovian Zayne. Jovian Zayne. I'm going to bring her up in just a moment. If you do not have the pleasure of knowing Jovian, Jovian is an international speaker and certified leadership and professional development coach with years of experience in change management, global diversity, and leadership development. She is also the CEO and founder of the On Purpose movement, a firm committed to developing values-driven leaders through targeted coaching, public speaking, and facilitated experiences. She is the founder of the annual International Day of Purpose, which is coming up soon, a day created to inspire people of all generations to celebrate and activate the power of their purpose. This woman is amazing. I am so thankful to my friend Morgan Wider, our friend, for introducing me to Jovian. And Jovian was one of our speakers at the Beyond the Business Suit retreat back in 2019. And the first time we talked, I was like, she's stuck with me for life. So this is going to be a catch-up conversation. I'm giving everybody the disclaimer now. You've been warned. Jovian and I have not seen each other since 2019, and we have not caught up enough. So you're just going to see us catching up. And I'll ask her some questions too. But all that aside, welcome, Jovian.
Oh, thank you so much, Kylie. I'm so glad to be with you. This is an honor, a pleasure. You've built an incredible community with Beyond the Business Suit. I'm glad to be a part of it. I have benefited immensely from the jewels that you drop, the insights your community provides, and just you holding space in the way that God created you to do. So thank you. And you look beautiful, sis.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
So do you. The last time we saw each other, you were not a mother yet.
I was not.
And now you are.
I wasn't. I'm trying to think if I actually was pregnant and didn't know it. I think I probably was like maybe 1 or 2 weeks in.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. Because you delivered at the end of in December. Her birthday is in December.
I delivered in January 5th.
Yes.
3:50 a.m.
Ooh, child.
Yeah, 30 hours.
30?
31 hours, because it's actually my line number. So that was right?
Yeah. Well, future soror came in. She was like, okay, Mom.
I love that you called her future soror already. Yeah, Georgie came in clear. She took her time, but she was right on time. And she's the gift that keeps on giving. I'll tell you that.
Well, I definitely want to get into some of your journey, but while we're talking about Georgie, what have been some of the things that how has Georgie influenced or impacted you and your work in ways that maybe you didn't expect?
Wow. I heard from other friends, mom friends. I think you were one of them, but mom friends who told me that, motherhood is just an incredible ride, but it's a wild ride. It's a ride that dips you into the land of patience in a way that you didn't anticipate before. It helps you to uncover a part of yourself that, frankly, just, I'm not going to say was dormant, but just didn't exist in the same way. I found that motherhood has introduced me to a confidence that is deeply rooted in my humanity and deeply rooted in like a sense of purpose that I know comes directly from my creator. Like my ability to funnel life through my body and feeling like I'm appointed to do so at this time when the world that we're inhabiting feels at odds. There's chaos in lots of ways. Motherhood slows me down to appreciate the blessings that every day provides. Like the new mercies that we talk about in Great is Thy Faithfulness. Like I see
Mhm.
the new mercies as Georgie begins to uncover life for herself. Like when she
Mhm.
figures out what it looks like to turn a page, when she figures out what it looks like to be able to like flip a light switch or to align balls with the same color. Like this blue ball goes in this blue hole. Like all of the little things that she is recognizing, it's like me getting a chance to recognize the new mercies that in my grown old age I've gotten accustomed to. Right. And so I
Hmm.
think she's reminded me, one, in work, to present and remain grateful with clients, and not in a way that reduces or presents me in a way where I show up like, oh, I'm just so happy to be here. It's not that. But I think my posture and gratitude could remind people of the the responsibility of our work, put it into perspective for what it really is, and especially for those of us who get to do and find ourselves in really purpose and mission aligned work, um, the great joy that that is. So that's one thing,
Mhm.
like gratitude. The second thing is, and I mentioned this briefly, but confidence. So, tell you a quick story. So, Kylie, I recently was preparing to do this really big talk with a client of mine for a long time. Actually, I'll just say it was Google. And I work with Google in lots of different capacities across lots of different business units. But this one client, they actually came to me late. I'll just keep it 100. They came with the Ask Late. And because I really cared about the team, I actually had a lot of friends on the team. I was like, okay, we can figure out how to make this happen. Logistics budget aside, let's do it. I know we'll work all that out.
Mhm.
Some other little emergencies happened on their end, and they ended up needing to call me and to schedule like an emergency meeting at a time when, frankly, I was going to be busy. So they end up, we figured it out. My project manager scheduled it. It was all right. But in the middle of them trying to call, life was happening for me where Georgie didn't sleep well the night before. That's my daughter's name for anyone who's asking. That's my daughter's name. And so she didn't sleep well the night before. And so it was a rough morning. And Kylie, you know what it's like to have a rough morning,
Mhm.
right? With your child.
Mhm.
So I am trying to adjust to that. They're calling on my cell phone. My cell phone's in the other room. I realized maybe 7 minutes after I'm supposed to have been on the phone that I was late, right? Mind you, this was a call that I'm taking because I'm responding to an emergency on their end.
Mhm.
So old Jovian would have gotten on that call while hearing her daughter screaming in the background, freaking out. She would have gotten on really upset, frustrated, tried to figure her way through it, but would have tried to hide what was going on, minimize it in some way. But where I am now in my life was I got on that call and it was with two other men, which is another reason, like,
Mm.
understanding gender dynamics. And I would have taken that load. I would have taken what I felt like was the burden of motherhood or the motherhood penalty. And I
Yeah.
would have thought I needed to show up differently, right? Minimize myself in some way. But I got on the call and I was like, hey, y'all, you may be able to hear there's a lot happening in my background. I want you all to meet me in this moment where let's take like maybe 15 seconds because you all are coming from an emergency too. I recognize I'm behind, so I appreciate your patience, but let's take 15 seconds and like ground together, take a few deep
Mm.
breaths. And the three of us got on that call and we took our 3 deep breaths. We centered ourselves. Then I said, okay, so how can I meet you where we are? How
What
can
a
I?
lesson.
It
What
was
a
a huge
lesson right
lesson.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the past, like I said, I would have done all kinds of different things and I wouldn't have held my space. I would
Mm.
have, felt the pressure of like, well, it's Google, it's this, I got to.
And frazzled and dazzled and bringing that energy into it, and
Exactly.
that's just not good for anybody.
Yeah, no. So I think motherhood's reminded me really like it's giving me a perspective on life of what really, really can matter, at least to me
Mhm.
at certain moments, how to take up space confidently, even more than I did in the past. And uh, it reminded me everybody came the same way.
Right? Right.
We came the same way.
Yes. Oh, that's
Mhm.
beautiful. That is beautiful. One thing I did want to ask people who are watching,
Yeah.
put in the chat, let us know where you're watching us from. What city? We'd love to hear that. If you have any questions for Jovian during our time together today, please put them in the chat. They're a little bit delayed, so we'll see them maybe 30 seconds later, but that's okay.
All good.
Put them in. It's all good. We will get to as many as we can during our time together. So, Jovian, you talked a little bit about one of your clients, at least. I mentioned a little bit about the work that you do. So, can you share with us? I know you've done so much. You have done so much in your young years. So, so give us some of those highlights from growing up where you have such an amazing family to some of your career highlights that have brought you to the work and the impact and purpose
Mhm.
driven work that you're doing today.
Yeah. Well, I like to talk about my journey through the lens of values because I wear my values on my arm. Like my values
Mm,
are the things that ground me. That's what I chase in life. They hold me accountable. I always tell my clients this, your values are good when they can remind you of who you are when you've forgotten. Right? Like these are
yeah.
my values of faith, family, connection, purpose, and justice. Those are the things that I believe, were downloaded to me from my socialization early on with family. I grew up in a family of faith. Both of my grandfathers were Baptist pastors in the South. My mother is a minister of peace and of equity. My father and my mother both work in higher education and have for a long time, but we're absolutely raised with like a faith-centered background, and not the faith that constricts, but the faith that expands, the faith that tells us what love looks like when it comes from a creator that's so much more than our minds can even imagine, hold, or think. And so it's with that kind of grounding in faith is liberating, faith is connecting, faith is hopeful, that I believe I was, the fabric of my DNA started to take shape. And so I've looked for community at a young age. And as I've gotten older, that helps to hone that gives me the kind of safe and brave space I need to explore and expand the definition of Jovian, right? Like who I am. So early on in my work, I had an opportunity, like many people, to come out of school and kind of explore what you wanted to do. And great mentors ushered me through my early phases, and of course continue to. And so I started my career in marketing at Black & Decker, which was wonderful, a rotational program. I did a lot of different things, did really well, but frankly found myself, as many of us can find ourselves, and go ahead and put in the chat if this is you, or, you'll listen on the podcast later and say like, hey man, this is me. If you're someone who has found themselves misaligned, right? Like where you once, the thing that brought you to that place doesn't actually keep you anymore. And that's where I found myself. I found myself in a misaligned state where the sense of purpose I had for helping people to feel more expanded in themselves and to do people-centered work wasn't really aligning to how I spent my time every day. So Kylie girl, I left corporate America, thankfully, and did so in a way that allowed me to take some time to really reflect on, well, what is Jovian aiming to do now? What does meaning look like through work? And I found my way, thanks to some beautiful mentors, to Teach for America. So I worked in the education nonprofit space for a while and did a number of things, fundraising, and then also spent time really doing the preponderance of work around people development. Did some recruiting, did a lot of people management, managed teams that thought about how to get the right people in the right roles at the right time. We helped to increase staff diversity at Teach for America to the largest percentage it had ever had in its history. And that's something I still remain really proud of. But what I most remain proud of, I think, of my time there was how hard I fought to get clear on the kind of impact I wanted to have in the world, at least for that season. And it's out of that season that the On Purpose movement was born. Because as a recruiter, one of the beautiful things you get to do, and even as you manage a team of recruiters, you're talking to people all the time who are trying to figure out in some way, shape, or form their impact, right? Like, how do I align my priorities with my impact in the world? And how do I do so in connection to a company or a brand that means something to me? And out of that time, I got really good at asking people questions. I got to build on my degree of psychology from like holding space for people, that love of connecting. And the On Purpose movement was born as I thought about transitioning out of TFA, thought about business school, all these different things, but ultimately felt like the world was calling and God was calling me to this next phase, which was to start the On Purpose movement in collaboration with great partners who wanted to help organizations live and work with more purpose and people to do that same thing. Because one thing that I found as I was having conversation after conversation, whether it was people I directly managed or they directly managed, or, when I did used to recruit people, I found that people were really struggling to figure out what purpose looked and felt like in their life.
Mm.
And they wanted a partner who was going to support them in that journey. And it wouldn't just show up in one way, like as coaching, but it would be, I always say, you can't be your best self by yourself. So I thought about, well, how do we build a community? How do we hold space and give people resources, give people community to be able to walk more confidently along their journey of purpose, however it takes shape in the season that they're in. So now I get to do this great work, and we work with Fortune 100, 500 companies, mission-driven organizations. Have your Googles, your Facebook, your Spotifys, your Aspen Institutes, of the world, and it's really incredible. It's really incredible.
That is amazing. I want to go back to how that idea came to you, because I
Mm-hmm.
know that we are both very spiritually connected. So what so I know, and I know how those visions come from me. So I would love for you to talk about that process. Where did it come from? When, like, how was that process, and how long did it take for you to answer that call?
Ooh, this is good. So it was December 2015, 2015, when I, a few months prior, had the beautiful opportunity of being a co-author in a book, an anthology on leadership. And I talk about this often, and you know this, Kylie, like there are breadcrumbs in life that if we're brave enough to look around, to go back, to pick them up, when we eat them, we can mess around and have a full meal. And that full meal will help us have a deeper understanding of ourselves, right? Like we feel like, oh, I got the sustenance I need. So for me, that writing that book, and then also having the faith to take the leap away from Teach for America, those were two significant breadcrumbs that helped me to hear what God, I felt like, my creator was telling me, which was, I ultimately am going to need you to hold space for the vision that I'm planting. And I'm not going to give you the full roadmap right now, but I will give you enough of what you need every day to keep going. So like, that's why, again, back to like great is thy faithfulness. And I know that, yes, this is a beyond the business suit conversation, but this is what I'm talking about faith so much, because what I know and what I invite other people to think about is, what are your values? What are your beliefs that hold you as you do your work, right? And that was the real thing that I know identified me and perhaps separated me from some of my colleagues at work. I showed up fully authentically, and that authenticity comes from a deep knowing that my faith has provided, right? So to answer the question of like, how did I know? Why did I take the leap? I really couldn't turn off the voice that I was hearing that was saying, it's time to go, it's time to go. And so our organization was also going through restructuring. I was like, I know I could stay, but it's time to go, it's time to go. It's time to go, it's time to go. I talked to my great mentors. Again, you can't be your best self by yourself. And my wonderful, dearly beloved and past Maya Angelou would always say, I may come as one, but I stand as 10,000. So my 10,000 includes people like you. It includes my mentor, like Carla Harris, who during that time was so significant and helped me to think about, how do I negotiate myself in a new space? And so writing the book, talking to great mentors, and fast forwarding to December of that year, when I wanted to celebrate the launch of the book. And I realized, as I was doing the planning of like celebrating, book launch, buy the book, my friends helped me to realize, actually, this is like, you're stepping out, Jovian. Like, this is more of a second coming and a new chapter for you. And that's all that we're celebrating. And that night I gave a speech to about 150 friends and colleagues. And during that speech is when I talked about the light and how a candle, which I just so happen to have one right now, always on, a candle, when it's lit, has the power to do a lot of different things: light a path for other people, change the aroma of a room, um, light a path in darkness, and how purpose is like a candle when it's lit.
Mm.
And
Wow.
that night I got lit, and I lit a whole bunch of other people, and everything was on purpose. We were talking about getting lit on purpose, work out on purpose, connect on purpose. And from there, it was clear. It was like, oh, this is a movement. This is a movement. And I was getting the DMs and the emails and the texts from friends like, I need more of this space. I want to be reminded that my purpose matters, because that makes me feel like I matter, right? Like
Yeah.
there's something for me. So that's when the On Purpose movement was really born. And along this time, I had left my former employer. I was getting all these invitations to do the things that I was doing really well. So speaking, coaching, training, and facilitating spaces around leadership, around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and belonging. And I'm be honest, the truth is, while I had intention of holding space, I thought maybe I'd go back in house somewhere and like carve out a space for me to do this type of work. Kylie, God was like, if you don't look around, I'm not
Nope.
none of the no, that's not happening. So the truth is, like, I was still applying to work at other companies. And these are people who would reach out like, oh my God, Jovian, please, we have this perfect job. But things just, for whatever reason, weren't working out. Like, oh yeah, all of a sudden the funding's gone, or oh yeah, we decided to not have the role, or whatever. Meanwhile, I'm still getting these opportunities. The next thing you know, I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is a whole business that's already been formed. And I've got these partners who are like, we're doing interim work that was turning into really full time. So yeah.
Wow. I
Mhm.
love that story. And it just gets me fired up anytime I hear stories about people getting into alignment with their purpose
That's
and
it.
with the call that they have, being obedient to the call,
Yeah.
being selected to be trusted with
Wow.
the call.
Wow.
And the fact that your call is
Mhm.
also connected to purpose and sharing that purpose, inspiring others to find that purpose around
Mhm.
the world, that is just, it's meta.
Yeah. It's meta, but it's so practical too.
It is, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I always
So
say
mm,
there's someone else's freedom is tied to our obedience.
yes,
Yeah. And
yeah.
I felt that so intimately in my work. Like when I don't have an agenda that's tied to my ego of how I want to present or what I think I need to do for the sake of business or what have you, public forum, I notice that one, my creator gets the glory in ways that it's designed to happen, and I feel more in the pocket.
Mm,
I feel more in the pocket. So going back to that story I told you about, the two guys from Google, like that was a moment when I had an opportunity to shrink and hide and honestly not show up on purpose. Because showing up on purpose for Jovian in that moment would have looked like redefining that space so people can feel seen, heard, and valued. And that starts with how I demonstrate how I do that for me. It also looks like redefining what space can look like when we're challenging systems that have sought to oppress us. And I know the system of time and of urgency and capitalism shrinks us as humans.
yes.
It shrinks how we work together, the nuance that we see in each other's identities. And so I knew as a cisgendered Black woman who's a new mom, in that moment, I needed to take space. So I actually allowed other people to hold and take space for themselves.
Mm, so good.
Yeah. And that's
So
me on purpose. So like,
right.
yeah, I'm seeing it show itself up in many different ways.
I love that.
Mhm.
And on June 20th,
Woo!
we are coming up on the 6th annual International Day of Purpose.
I cannot.
So, I mean, 6 years, girl. Girl, that is
6
amazing.
years.
Amazing. So, how can people be a part of it? What can we do to support the movement? What can we do? How can we be involved? All the things.
Yes, well, we're getting ready to roll out the latest iteration of the website for the 2021 International Day of Purpose. But go ahead now, go to dayofpurpose.org, sign up. That way you'll get all the information that will come from that. And of course, we are going to honor, because of we're still in the place of recognizing the urgency of this global pandemic. This International Day of Purpose is centered in the theme of revisiting your why, right? I and let me actually walk back before I get into what's going to happen with 2021. The story around the International Day of Purpose is simple. The On Purpose movement was born. I was talking about purpose all the time, and I just kept hearing this theme continually: purpose. I need it. I'm lacking it. But people who found it, like found that sense in whatever season they're in, were more locked in. Right? They were operating with a deeper sense of confidence, clarity, conviction, and joy. And I had dinner with my great friend and sister Ty Beauchamp, and I was just like fired up. And I was like, girl, everyone's talking about purpose. Like, how do we, like, I just want to celebrate it. And I feel like there needs to be a time and a space. Like, what would happen if everyone in the world was living on purpose? Like, that was the question I just kept grappling with. And it would keep me up at night, but in a great way, like good energy.
Yeah.
And she was like, is there a day already? And I was like, oh my God, there's not. We need to get, and we're at the table. My food's getting cold. I'm buying domains. I'm researching or whatever. And within the next, 48 hours, the Day of Purpose was formally born, placed on calendars and trademarked and all that good stuff. And then the actual design and iteration came in a beautiful community who I felt like I was just responding to, people I had worked with, people I was friends with, just like, how would I want to celebrate that day? So on the International Day of Purpose, which is celebrated annually on the solstice, on the summer solstice, and has now at this point been celebrated nearly by 18 million people globally, from South Africa to LA to Beijing, through social media campaigns, in-person events, virtual events. It is a way for people to reflect, engage, and connect on purpose. That's the whole point. And so whether you spend the Day of Purpose rewriting your resume because the next step to you working in a career that's more aligned with how you use your gifts in that season of life is going to be showing up differently, that's a great way to celebrate. Perhaps you're like a woman I know named Miriam, who spent her last day of purpose writing letters to people she hadn't connected to in a while because she knew that she felt a lack in those relationships and wanted to intentionally connect on purpose. Or you're like my friend Brooke, who got back in the gym on the Day of Purpose and was like, this is going to be the day that I love on myself by getting fit on purpose, right? So it's everything on purpose. It's that day is a beautiful invitation to revisit, yes, your larger sense of why and purpose, but also on a very granular level, consider how you are intentional with everything you do that day in a way that honors the best of who you are, the best of humanity, and the values that you have. So that's the beautiful invitation of Day of Purpose. And this year, 2021, right, we're responding to of course, the urgency of the global pandemic and want to offer people a time to reflect, as I was saying, revisit your why, right? Revisit that sense of purpose, because Kylie, you know this, we're hearing this from friends, from clients. The pandemic did a lot of things: significant loss, significant upheaval. And with those two things, it also breeds life in reflection because of the slower pace. So a lot of people, and we're seeing tons of articles about this in the Times and Wall Street Journal, et cetera, where Adam Grant just wrote this great piece around this feeling a lot of people are having right now, which is languishing, as they call it in psychology world, and how for many there's been this deep restlessness, and it's coming from like a place of, I'm not really sure what I'm doing anymore. And that comes from the recognition of what you were doing in the past is not how you want to
Wasn't it?
It wasn't it. It wasn't it. And so the Day of Purpose we'll have some resources. I'm going to be doing a talk. I think we'll have a few other, beautiful connection points for people. And we're going to be just inviting people in to constantly that day reflect on, what have you learned in the past, 12 to 14, 15 months that has informed the way you are choosing and committing to honor purpose in your life moving forward. That could
Mm.
be everything from, I'm not going to go back into work the same way. Or, the family Friday that we established, we're going to keep that. And I don't care if that, you know, switches up the way that I have to do my work or whatever. Or, you know what, working out 3 times a week has actually been so good for me. I'm not going to let the pace of going out or FOMO or unrealized expectations stop me from pouring into myself. So we are
Oh,
excited about what it's going to be.
I am excited to support, and my wheels are turning because
Yes, turn girl. What you got?
yes. And, and I love that it's on summer solstice.
Mhm,
Earlier this year, I launched the Beyond community, and I'm thinking, okay,
mhm,
what do we need to do in the Beyond community on that day? I know that's Father's Day, but on some Sundays, we have our soul to soul sessions
mhm.
where we bring in a guest to go deep and get to the, like I call it, the cellular level.
Ooh, I love
And
that.
yes, get to the cellular level, and that's where purpose resides.
Mhm,
That is
mhm,
where purpose
mhm.
resides. So maybe we'll have like a purpose, like an on purpose session. I don't know.
I
We'll
love it.
figure something
I'm
out.
loving it
We will
already.
figure something out, but we need it. We need it.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we don't give ourselves permission to
Mhm,
take a step back to ask ourselves that
mhm.
that small divine voice inside of us, that
Yeah,
powerful voice inside of us, what is ours to do? Why are we here? And I'm so thankful to you for doing this work.
thank you. What is
Whew.
ours to do? That is so beautifully positioned and said. It's such a great invitation. I mean,
Yes.
you can apply that every day.
Yes.
What and I talk about, like, what am I uniquely positioned to do, which I think is
Mhm.
totally in line
Yes.
with what you're saying.
Right.
Ooh, girl, that
Right.
was a chill up my body.
Ooh, and that takes the shoulds out of it because and I've had a lot of
Yeah.
conversations this week about, people saying, "Yeah, and I know I need to get the shoulds out of me," and, but when we're hung up on the shoulds, that's somebody else's stuff.
Somebody else's.
That's somebody else. That is not what yours to do. That's not what you are uniquely positioned to do.
No,
Period. It's just
no.
not.
You got that right. I mean, and frankly, that's where we plant where the seeds of doubt, confusion,
Yes.
insecurity,
Yes.
imposter syndrome, it starts there in a lot of
Yes.
ways. When you're doing things that are misaligned and you're trying to take things that you think would better inform the way you present in the world, right? A
Mhm.
lot of that also is ego driven in some way. Ego, as Deepak says, edging God out, which I just love,
Yes. Yes, I love
right?
that.
Yeah, it just, yeah, the shoulds
Mhm.
disrupt the yours. Like it disrupts what's
Yes.
your
The
purpose.
shoulds disrupts the yours. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
Yes.
Mhm,
Well, you mentioned how we can support the International Day of Purpose,
mhm.
and we will make sure when we post this podcast episode that we include all of the links so that people can go to the website easily and support and figure out what they're going to do on purpose and revisiting their why. And also want to know if there are organizations who want to work with you. What ways are you working with organizations right now?
Beautiful question. So my firm, my partners and I and associates, we are focused right now on continuing to do a lot of purpose work and design sprints with organizations who are redefining their why and trying to, like, tap into what is our new theory of change, theory of influence, or theory of access,
Mm.
or action. And so we're loving doing that. Of course, we've been leaning in, as we have for a number of years. We're not new to this. We're true to this, but equity work is foundational to how we show up through the lens in which we see the world and want to approach our work. So if organizations are looking for thought leadership in terms of writing or panels or speaking, they're looking for certified executive coaches or training and facilitators and design and consulting partners around their people work. That's leadership development, that's purpose work, that's talent strategies. Um, we are a group of people that are eager to support you the best that we can. So you can just go to jovianzayne.com. And there's lots of information there. You can just fill it in.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
Well, I know that it's almost time for you to go.
Oh gosh.
Can we do a quick fire round?
Yes, I love a rapid fire. Give me some.
Okay. So while we're doing the quick fire round, everybody, if you have any questions for Jovian, please put them in the chat. That'll give it time for us to see them, and we'll try to go through as many as possible. But we have the final five is our quick fire round. And what I will need from you is to select five numbers. Let me grab my pen between the numbers of 1 and 22. And I will ask you
Come
the
on for the
associated.
22.
That's right, founders. And then I will ask you the questions associated with those numbers.
Got it. Okay, we're going to start with 4,
Mm-hmm.
2,
Mm-hmm.
14,
Mm-hmm.
and 22.
Okay, one more. 4, 2, 14, 22, and one more.
18.
Okay. All right. So let's start at the top. What are some of the things that you do to take care of yourself?
Oh gosh. This question has gotten so hard as a mom. I know this will be a quick answer, but I'm going to tell, like, one of the things I was working through recently has just been, like, I think pushing away any resentment around how difficult it is now to prioritize myself in ways that I typically have. I think that's just like one of the real challenges of this new chapter. Things that I used to really love and be like, okay. And also the pandemic influences. Hanging out with friends all the time, traveling, brunch, 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 bottomless brunch, 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 brunch. And also like quiet time for myself, radio hour with my favorite podcasts, shows. And I really do love working out.
I love that. Yes, sweat check.
Yes, team sweat check. Go.
Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Jovian has gotten me, yes, doing my sweat checks. Absolutely. Thank you for
Yes.
that. So the next question is, what are some things you do? It's very interesting. This is similar. No coincidences. What are some of the things you do to recharge your energy?
Yes. So I've recognized through the pandemic, I truly am an extrovert. I've known that, but like it was very clear that I still do get my energy when I'm with folks. So I recharge when I'm with great people that can pour into me just because they're cool, they're fun. We have a great time laughing. That and reading.
Love
Reading
it.
stories that take me out of my own world and give me experiences of other people, I love.
So fiction or nonfiction or both?
Both, but
Okay.
particularly right now, nonfiction because the world's a little tough. So
Right.
I need
Right.
some pretend.
Okay. The next question is, what are three of your favorite things, people not included?
French fries, waffle fries,
Mm.
McDonald's fries.
Fries, fries, and
And more
fries.
fries. No, I'll do fries. My favorite things: family time, and time with my husband.
Beautiful. The next question is, if I asked 10 people to describe you using three adjectives, what do you think they would say?
Purpose, joy, friend.
Beautiful. And last, what is the best or amongst the best advice you've ever received?
These are great questions, Kylie. Like I am obsessed. Okay, two pieces. One, from an early manager, which was also reinforced by my mentor Carla Harris and Big Sister and Soror. Under promise, over deliver.
Mm.
I learned it the hard way, and have now just like I lead into that. It has been a beautiful saving grace. Secondly, again, my Angela would say, my aunt would offer, people may not remember what you said or what you did, but they will always remember how you made them feel. I have not found a quote to be more true than that in the world.
I'm telling you,
Yeah.
yes. Well, we do have a bonus question, and that is, how can people connect with you online and on all the socials?
Yes, yes. At Jovian Zayne. Go
Easy
there.
breezy.
Mhm.
Easy breezy. Well, Jovian, I know that you have a meeting soon, so I want to give you some breathing time back, and I am so grateful to you for sharing this time with us, sharing your wisdom with us. And I love what you said before, and I meant to mention this when you were thinking about you bringing Georgie into the world at such a time as this. It is, I mean, if I allowed myself, I would just go into weeping because I know the person you are and the fact that you birthed this human being in the beginning of 2020. And I know without even experiencing her in real life yet, in person yet, I know her light is just enormously bright, and I can't wait to see the joy and the purpose she's going to shine on this world. And I know that she selected the right parents to help her make the impact that she was meant to make. So I can't wait to
Mm,
see her.
that is so kind. I received that. I'm
Mhm.
grateful for that, and I cannot wait for you to hug her.
Oh, I can't
Just
wait. We're coming to California sometime,
yes.
at some point. Oh, well, I love you, my dear. Thank you
I love
so
you.
much. And thank
Thank
you.
you.
And thank you, everybody who joined us. And make sure that you sign up for the Day of Purpose. You follow Jovian on all the socials and keep up with this great work that she's doing. And everybody, go shine that bright that only you have for everyone else to see, because when you do, it gives others
Mm.
permission to do the same. Thank you, everybody. Be well.